So, while I was away, or while you were away, I was busy. I actually made 2 batches, and I got the cheese ready. The cheese is extra old cheddar cheese, which, sorry, I should hold it up, which I grate on the fine grater. Okay, this cheese is actually too soft. I look for the hardest cheese that I can find, because if it's too soft, what happens is it sort of reconstitutes itself and goes into clumps. But I grate a bunch of cheese and I mix it with Parmesan. And then I very carefully fluff it, because you end up with these big lumps that you have to sort of muck around with your fingers when you're placing it down. Anyway, so there's my cheese. Don't ask me how much. It's just that much, and that'll be enough for 2 batches. I have taken the dough, and I've made 2. Now you can see that this is stuck to the top of my dough. So one thing I forgot to mention is that you need to keep an eye on it and keep your cloth damp, because if you don't, it'll stick to the dough. And here's my other one that I made after. And you can see it's not quite as risen, although this is a slightly bigger bowl. So I'm just going to keep this one for afterwards, but move it over. This is the fun part. This is the part that my granddaughters love doing, because you get to literally punch the dough down. See? That's fun. If you're ever frustrated, you can always punch your dough around. Yeah, sometimes it sticks to the bowl a little bit like that, but that really doesn't matter. But I can tell that I have a really nice dough. It still feels like a baby's bottom. I put a little bit of flour here. I probably also forgot to mention that you need a rolling pin. So when I'm all finished, I'll give you the whole recipe so that... Okay, so you make an oval and you start rolling out. I also have prepared a cup with just water in it. There's nothing else but water and a little brush, and you'll see why. So I roll into a nice rectangle, and it's a nice springy dough, so that means the yeast worked well. And this, again, it's not brain surgery, it's just time consuming. And I can tell that this is a really good dough. Okay, so I have a nice sort of rectangle. I go more by size than thickness. And I put my first layer of cheese. Now, you'll notice that I sort of have to get rid of these clumps. That's why I like to have my granddaughters here. They either pick at the clumps or they eat them. But I put cheese on the top part, not too close to the edge. And then I'll seal it with some water. Okay, now I'll do it. I usually end up doing this at least 4 or 5 times. So, like I said, it's time consuming more than anything else. So I, paint the edges so that it sticks together with water. And then you flip it up, and that's number 1. And you pinch, pinch, pinch. And if you've got kids with some manual dexterity that like baking, they like doing this part. And then I turn it 90 degrees and get it back into a rectangle shape and roll it out again. And like I said, this is the part that gets a little boring and or repetitive. So I'm just going to do it as quickly as I can here so that I can show you the rest. Okay, so number 2. I don't know if you want to keep filming until I do. I'll do one more and then maybe you can. This is 2. Again, I try and get rid of the clumps if at all possible, and that's why I use a fork. But if you use a drier cheese, it won't go into a clump like that. It's only because my my cheddar was a little bit drier or a little bit wetter than it should have been. And if you use really old cheddar, crumbly, it works better. Okay, so this will be number 2. As you keep going, it starts getting a little bubbly. And you just can pierce the bubbles with a fork. Okay, so that's number 2. And again, I turn it 90 degrees. And mash it into shape. That was number 2. So I do that a total of 5 times.
Okay, so we'll come back.
Yeah, okay, so